Okay, I'm running a few minutes late. Welcome, 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 TikTok family. Welcome, 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 YouTube family. We have a very important discussion we're going to talk about here today. I think it's very important. I've been trying to get here as much as I can. Today, we're going to be talking about reclaiming the circle, why women must build matriarchal communities in a time of war. This is the time right now to be building because we see what's going on. Okay, this is going to be a very important topic. I don't know how many people can see me on TikTok. I think I'm being censored a lot on TikTok. Every time I bring up this subject, I'm being censored. I feel like I'm being censored, but I am posting it here for my TikTok family and YouTube family. And I know we have our eyes on the war. We're looking at what's going on. I've been coming here trying to update you, providing you, especially with spiritual support and awareness of what is going on now. Now, I just talked about a little bit of this on the chemistry channel in our hoodoo community. I kind of talked about shadow work and what is coming up for us, especially as Black Americans, how this is impacting us. What is our shadow work? What does this has to do with us? And today I'm going to come here and I'm going to talk about women. A lot of people don't want to hear this, but this is what this is. Uh, and a lot of you are probably saying, "Who are you?" My name is Reverend Penny, Miss Penny. I wrote the book Matriarch to Patriarch, the Black Woman God. And I talked about how all these civilizations come from us, and that at some point in time, we will be called back to the Great Mother, back into our divine sovereignty. I believe that with everything in my heart. Now, men have wrote this book and made it about them. They wrote books and all this other stuff because this is about his spiritual evolution. This is about him. It's who got the biggest God. Okay. And I must say that Iran is being the mirror to them now. And who's the suffering behind this? Women and children. And children are the ones who are being impacted by this craziness the most. And this is one reason why they want us to keep producing human beings for this type of crazy stuff. That's what's happening here. Okay. So we're going to dive into it. We're going to get into it and we're going to talk about it. If you want to chime in here, please feel free to chime in here because this war is it's impacting women. You don't think it does because this is the reason why they want us to keep having these children. Sending children to the I mean, it is crazy. Even down to the point now they want seniors to sign up for the military. This is out of hand, and we have the power to stop it. Because I mean, we're going to be impacted by it. We are being impacted by it. Some of us have got to send our children into this crazy mess. And when that fails and their numbers go down, they're going to be looking at women and children. They always do. Okay, they begin to subjugate us, and so this is important right now for us to be really thinking about building these communities, building a separate society from them, because I just, from listening to the professionals and looking at uh this subject and how it's been talked about, uh we can pretty much, and looking at history, if we're not careful, we're going to repeat and experience some of the same cycles. That's what's happening here. And I'm coming here in the best way I can to talk about this subject because it's being ignored and we're being heavily distracted by what the patriarchs are doing right now, which is crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's just crazy making. It's crazy making. It makes no sense. Okay, and they have created this false reality that they have went against the great mother. They have all this to avoid the abuse of women and children that has been ongoing for centuries. You rather go to a war than to deal with your crazy self. This is what's going on with the patriarchs. It's time for a lot of us to wake up. So we're going to talk about this topic today. If you want to chime in here, please chime in here, women, because I mean, nobody's. I look. We don't. I wish that we wouldn't keep making the same mistake, bringing children into this world for their crazy mess. They're trying to control our portals so they can do that. They don't even have enough numbers to even be in this, but here they are, and they are dropping by the dozens over there. Okay, and I know a lot of you don't think this is important. This is very important because you're gonna be impacted by it. Now, I talked about this maybe a year or two before this even happened and start unfolding, and I expressed my concerns to you. If you go back and look at some of my videos here, I expressed my concerns to you. I saw this coming. I see the writing on the wall. And within 4 or 5 years, we got a good 4 or 5 years to start making creating environments just for us, women and children. Got 4 or 5 years because after the 4 or 5 years, you're gonna see something else that's gonna directly impact you. I know you don't want to hear that, but that's the truth. You already see what's going on with the e-files. All of this, you know, is just so we don't have to look at the e-files. And then after this is done, you're going to make it okay and legalize and normalize this sort of behavior against women and children. Let's get it real now. Let's sit with this for a minute. I don't think we're sitting with this. Yeah, we're concerned about what's happening now, but after the aftermath of this and we're looking at what we're looking at, don't get distracted. Women, we still got work to do to get away from these people because they're not going to even hold themselves accountable. Not even hold themselves accountable. You can't say that it's some good ones out there because if it was some good ones out there, somebody would have been set this man down. So we're going to get into it today. Please chime in, and I appreciate, all the support, the likes, the follows, the shares. You can share this video with other women to really get us to thinking about uh, creating establishments, institutions for women by women. Might have to create, my dream is to create a whole different society and don't even fight for equality in their little boys club because this is. Okay, you don't want to be in any of their boys clubs. We have to make our own because they're not going to do it. They're not going to protect us. That's not even on that. You're too easily thinking that you don't have any value for human life in what you're doing. Women are not bringing children in here so you can treat them like objects for your war. That's not what we're doing here. But this is what you see exactly what they want um, coming from your womb and how they treat your womb by the behavior. Folks steady telling you you can't do women like that. We're tired of your abuse. We're tired of you doing our children like that. We keep telling you, and then you hide it, you bury it, you avoid it. Some of this stuff is even in our families. So you refuse to protect women and children. You just don't. You won't do it. And if you're a woman of color, whoa, you're in real big trouble because you're probably not going to be seen. Okay, so let's get into this. I'm not going to keep you up, but we're going to go through some things because I'm going to bring some things to your attention. And if you want to chime in here, please do because these are discussions that I think that is very important for women to have. Throughout history, major political shifts have often had the most profound immediate impact on women and children. When societies enter periods of instability, polarization, or authoritarian leadership, the rights, safety, and autonomy of women frequently become central points of control. For this reason, it is important that women remain aware of political changes unfolding around them and understand how these changes can shape their lives, their families, and their future. In recent years, many scholars, journalists, and political analysts have warned that the United States is experiencing a period of intense political division and institutional stress. During times like these, history shows that women's rights can become vulnerable. Laws related to reproductive health, family structure, and bodily autonomy are often among the first areas targeted when political ideologies shift toward a more rigid or patriarchal frameworks. They want you worshiping men, okay? They want you worshiping men. That's what you're seeing here now with this fighting going back and forth. My thing is, if y'all so mad, why don't y'all go out in the street instead of hurting women and children? Why don't y'all go out in the street and box it out? Why don't y'all just go in the boxing ring? Why don't you go do that? Why don't you create a place where y'all can be isolated and have your war? Why people got to be in the middle of y'all stuff? Seems like you would have more sense than that. If you want to do that stuff to each other, why don't you have an isolated place, an island, or whatever, where y'all can go there and play these little games instead of having women and children in the middle of your crap? Why don't you do it? It makes more sense if you were so logical, if you were so smart. Why aren't you doing that? Why do women and children got to be hurt and all that kind of stuff? Seem like y'all would go to an island and go meet, and y'all would just go duke it out over there, or just get in the boxing ring. Why do women and children got to be in the middle of your stuff? I mean, and then you call yourself logical, but if you was logical, you would think to yourself, wait a minute, we got women and children around here. Let's not fight over here. Let's go to this place where we have created where we can have our fantastic war and we can just duke it out. No, you don't do that. You put women and children right in the mix of your crazy making. And then want to send our children in there. You want to draft them. You want to make them do something. This is not even justified. The writing is on the wall. The writing is on the wall, you guys. One cultural work that captured the fears is The Handmaid's Tale, based on a novel by Margaret Atwood. Atwood has explained that the dystopian world she portrayed was not purely fictional. Every form of oppression described in the story had existed somewhere in human history. You're seeing it happening. You seeing the Handmaid's Tale happening right now. It's getting ready to happen. It's happening right now before your eyes. Okay? Started just like this. Okay? Very similar. The book television adaptation depicts a society where women lose their rights and are forced into rigid roles controlled by the state. There will be a civil unrest coming to the United States of America. A break will happen, and it's going to be surrounding this election. It's going to happen. A break is going to happen in that country. A civil distress when this is over, it's going to go back to the United States, because a lot of this stuff that he is refusing to address is still going to be on the table, and it's going to break the nation. Come on now. No, you're not ready to look at this. That's what's going to happen when this stuff start to settle, because his raggedy self still wants to, rule. Okay? And we've had plenty of the great mother has given us plenty of insight and wisdom for us to see this with our own eyes. And I know you feel it. I know you feel it. And now you're seeing it. And now more than ever, it is very, very important either women to get together or start removing themselves. But having communities that will keep them protected. Okay? Removing yourself, because this is going to get more crazier with them. And all this is about his spiritual evolution. It has nothing to do with you. His religion, it has everything to do with him. It got nothing to do with women. Ain't got nothing to do with women. The whole religion is addressing he, him, him. They even giving themselves credit uh for creating it. It's for him, by him. About his spiritual evolution, his lack of wanting to look at himself and want to control the cosmic being. Because if they just sit down, we wouldn't have this. If you just sit down and be quiet and know your role, we wouldn't be having any of this. We wouldn't be having this. We really wouldn't. Enough is enough. And if you ain't got no people, if women don't keep bringing people in here for you to do raggedy stuff like this, you have to sit down and shut up, or you gonna go extinct. One or the other. This is what I'm talking about. Nobody want to keep having no children, and you making it unsafe here. Who want to keep doing that? Okay. Every form of oppression described in television adaptation depicts a society where women lose their rights and are forced into rigid control roles by the state. The story resonated strongly with the audiences because it reflected real anxieties about how quickly freedoms can erode when political power becomes concentrated. It's coming. This is what this man wants. We have to be careful with a lot of them because when they go into war and stuff like that, you know, you think you're that important where you got to sacrifice women and children to get what you want. Political tensions in the United States have intensified during the era of Donald Trump, particularly around the issues affecting women's rights, legal protections, and social policies. Many observers believe that the direction of the future leadership and elections will shape whether democratic institutions remain stable or move toward more authoritarian practices. In such moments, the stakes of women become extremely high because policies regarding family, sexuality, reproduction, and gender roles often become tools of political control. Okay? And we already see how they're doing in this war. If you haven't seen them, they're using this cult like speech, religious speech, to brainwash these people into going in the military. And they have complained about this type of cult like behavior that they're using in the military. Let's sit with this a while. What do you guys think about this? Especially as women. What do you think about what's going on here? What what comes up for you? Because I don't see this, we instead of been telling them, what we need, and it just like you're not going, they're not listening. We steadily telling them you have hurt these women and children in these e-files, and you're steady dismissing it. And then to me, when you're doing that, you're saying that women and children don't matter to you, that they're your tools to do whatever you want to do with you. I've heard many of them said it's okay to do children like this. And you tell us that not all of y'all is like that. So where is the man that's grabbing that man and making him sit down? Beyond legislation, periods of social instability can also create environments where violence against women and children becomes more common. When institutions weaken or political leaders normalize harmful rhetoric, which they're doing, they went to the point of this, just watching, being informed about what's going on. There's a lot of propaganda and a lack of accountability that's going on in this as well, because now you don't want to admit that you did this to these people, and then you said these people did them to themselves. Now, if you said this about them, you will fix your mouth and say that the women and children that you personally abused, they did that to themselves. This just how, boy, great mother help me, ancestors help me. This is the stuff we're dealing with. And this is the stuff they have did to us, the anger, that runs through me looking at these patriarchs do this stuff and then want us to feel safe. When you allow someone like this to do this stuff to us, why would we feel safe around any of you, even the ones that you say you're not like that, where you're not protecting us either? How are we supposed to feel safe like that? It's hard to feel safe. I don't see a protector in sight. Okay, I don't see that. So why would we feel safe? It can be embolden those who seek to exploit or harm vulnerable populations. This is why many advocates argue that women must not only remain politically aware, but also organize in ways that protect themselves and their communities. Let's get organized, women, ladies, goddesses, queen. This is your time. Fighting with them, trying to get them to have equality with them, not gonna happen because he is, brain dead. He is a regressed specimen. The best thing for us to do is to stop. I think, my opinion, is the best thing for us to do is just create a whole new society. I don't even want to be in that stuff because it's so raggedy. It's been tainted by your, indoctrination. Can't even be in that equal because you done messed it up. You don't want no equality. You don't want that. Got to create something totally different. And the size society that you do have, you built off the one that we created and corrupted it. Now we got to go over here and build something else, and hope that you don't come over there. Can't keep arguing with them because you know that they don't mind putting their hands on you and abusing you or whatever, like they always do, or unalive you, and then find justified ways to do it. And this has happened to women globally. I'm not even talking about the minorities in the world, the people of color. I'm just talking about women across the board globally. They've justified a lot of the things they have done to us during times of war. I'll never forget hearing Charleston White talk about that, the things that came out his mouth. He was like, yeah, because we're going to be raping women. And then somebody said, what if somebody, assaults your woman? Well, ain't nobody going to assault my bitch. Ain't nobody going. I'm just like, oh my God, like, wow. So you're going to use your phallic as a weapon. This is how y'all think. I'm glad, you have the opportunity to speak freely. Okay, so when we see you, we believe it the first time. I know these boys have no empathy. I mean, something is going on with them. I don't see it getting better with them because just the number of women and children lives we are losing. Looking at Sudan, looking at Palestine, looking at uh, what's going over there in West Asia or the Middle East, looking at what's going on there. Who is this impacted? They are, especially United States. You are intentionally targeting schools and institutions where children, women, and children are going to be at. It's the most disgusting thing. Okay, this is what we're dealing with. And my thing is, you can fight, but why you gotta fight in places where you're using women and children as shields? Because that's what I call it. If you want to fight and you want to do that stuff, it's so many private islands that y'all can go to and duke it out. But you're cowards. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. You want to jeopardize the lives of women and children to save yourself. Because if you was really brave and really tough, y'all already had a isolated place where y'all gonna have y'all little war. It's not even fair that women and children uh be in the middle, be impacted by your raggedy stuff. History offers many examples of women responding to dangerous political climates by building their own systems of protection and support. Women have formed shelters for survivors of abuse, mutual aid networks, community defense organizations, and advocacy groups that hold institutions accountable. These networks provide safety, resources, and a solidarity when traditional systems fail to do so. Now, this has been helpful in some ways, but what's so hard about this, to get justice and to help these structures flow, there's usually some support, outside support that you're needing from the system. And what I think about that is that it is the system that is hurting us. It is better for us to create our own system. And I know that's hard for a lot of us to accept. And we have bought into the notion that a prince or a knight in shining armor is going to save us, and it is not going to be them. They do not have that in them. We've already just talked about his nature and who he is. And I don't want to hear all of them ain't like that. I don't want to hear that. Because if all of them ain't like that, where are the good ones? In the same breath, I want to see the good ones. I want to see what they're doing actively to protect women and children. Where are the good ones? Okay? You can't say that now. Don't say all of them ain't like that because I don't see a good one in sight. Okay? I don't see not a good one in sight. All this going on. Because a good one would have set this man down somewhere. But they give each other passes on their crazy stuff. You're seeing it right now. Not making it up. They would give passes on each other's stuff and have friends like this that's raggedy, and then at the same time tell us that they not like that while having a friend that's like that. Okay, while having a friend like that, they will go along to get along. Okay, they will conform. This is why it's dangerous too. If you have a little boy children, to have them in proximity of them, because you don't know how he's going to corrupt your son. You don't know. Because when they go into a proximity to each other, they tend to corrupt each other really fast. They get on the same mind, be like a different person, but the same mind. They be on the same frequency, mental frequency. Okay? The reality has become even more painful because the recent escalation of violence in the Middle East has overshadowed an important global moment of reflection and celebration of International Women's Day. Couldn't even focus on Women's Day because they got this going on. We can't even focus on, what we bring to the table because they got this stuff right here going on. A day meant to honor the contributions and resilience and leadership of women around the world was instead marked by headlines of warfare, destruction, and grief. While women everywhere were meant to gather in a solidarity and celebration, the world was once again reminded how quickly patriarchal systems of conflict can drown out the voices calling for peace and collective well being. They got to steal a show once again. Okay, they got to be the center of attention once again. I can't even, I don't even think I'm expressing uh, how exhausting and how tired I am of them and this crazy system. It just doesn't work. It's outdated. And you're seeing that with Iran, and you're seeing that with them. But it's still a power struggles with them. Because each one of them are, again, you're jeopardizing women and children in this. In Iran, I got to give you credit. You were minding your business until Mr. I know everything and I can have my way and entitled to do anything to anybody came and did that to you. I still have to look at both of you because you're still risking women and children. I know you need to go somewhere else and have that fight somewhere else. Why would you do that? And then these are the same men that say they are smart, they are logical, they are not emotional at all while hurting other people. And then the people that's not hurting other people, abuse other people, we're too emotional. A lot of this gaslighting, see what the gaslighting getting at? All this gaslighting going on here with them. They're just not safe. It's just different degrees of crazy. So you're gonna have that with patriarchs. Okay? Now we're dealing with a full-blown psychopath. A whole administration full of them. He making the whole administration mentally sick and spiritually. Because now they've centered this stuff around religion, so now they can thoroughly brainwash you. Across history, these systems have largely been shaped by patriarchal ideologies, structures that value conquest over compassion, and militarism over mutual survival. When patriarchal governments clash, the cost is always paid by ordinary people, families, workers, and especially children. The tragedy of innocent lives lost in a school during this conflict is a painful reminder that victims of war are rarely the men who declare it. We're going to be hearing so many stories after this about, they're keeping it out of the media now, but I can't imagine how many women are crying because they lost their sons or their sons are being drafted in this. All the stories are coming. They're going to be in the history books, just like the Vietnam War. Very uncalled for, but we went in there anyway. And I had to deal with a father who was impacted by it, who had extreme PTSD and unalived himself when I was at the tender age of 9 years old because he lived with that trauma with him daily. And he unalived himself. He jumped off a building and unalived himself. Okay? That's what, you're just bringing more mental illness, more violence, but we're supposed to be civilized. We're supposed to, how we can have all this technology and made all these strides in human history, and yet we'll still result in violence and the abuse of women and children. How? How? No, man, no, 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 no. Patriarchs, you have not evolved. In fact, you want women to regress with you. This is what you do. This is why we have a high divorce rate because you get in these relationships and you don't value them, you don't nurture them, and you don't want to grow. I mean, this is happening, you know, globally, collectively, individually with our relationships with you, and it's just oozing all out. All your, wounds are just oozing all out. Instead of directing wealth and resources toward ending poverty, improving education, strengthening communities, and creating stability for future generations, governments often choose militarization. Okay, you wanna just build a bigger army. You want bigger nuclear weapons and stuff out like that. Just like they love fireworks. You look over there with all these boom booms. It reminds me of when I was a child, how the little boys in our community would have these firework fights, and they would, have these bottle rocket fights, and they would shoot these fireworks at each other. It never fails on 4th of July, and somebody got to go into the ER because they've been popping fireworks at each other. It's the same thing, just on a bigger level. Yeah, and I said, look at this. This is crazy. And then I used to always wonder, why do these little boys love these firework, having these firework wars? And they know they're going to burn each other up. Somebody's going to be in the ER, but they don't care. Okay? They love practicing their aggression. And here you're seeing it on a on a global level, and looking at this war, I'm just like, this is crazy. But people are actually getting hurt. Okay, I remember seeing it as a child. It never made sense to me. I'm like, y'all crazy. I never wanted to be in the firework wars. I'm like, I don't want to be burning myself up and running for firework. But that was a big thing in our community. Most of the little boys, they participated in it. Okay, same thing with this war, except you're using dangerous weapons to hurt other people. Vast sums are spent on weapons and warfare while citizens in many nations struggle with housing insecurity, rising living costs, healthcare shortages, failing infrastructure. The energy that could heal nations is instead used to destabilize others. And that's what you're doing with that war. Billions and billions of dollars. Your healthcare, a better quality of life is going down the drain with every ammunition, every gun, every person they send up over there is just going down the drain for unnecessary war. That's what's happening. Billions. If you ain't tired of that, uh-uh. If you're not tired of that, I don't know what to tell you. I'm very sick of it. And you're seeing it right there in your face. And is there a solution to that? Yeah, it's a simple solution. I think people get so because they convince us that, hey, if you participate in our system, you're going to have equality. And if you don't have equality, you can further participate. It's just to get more gaslighting. You can get into our political system, and you can run for office, and you can do this and you can do that when it's rigged against you all the time, and your participation does nothing but help their system keep going. That's all it does. Yeah, they want you going down to the midterm. They want you going into all of that stuff because that tells them that you are, yeah, you still brainwash. You're still participating in our system. The brainwashing is still working because they're showing up at the polls and all that. They will know the brainwashing and things is not working when you say, forget that, I'm going over here to do that. Because you're not going to do it. I mean, the way your system is made, it's not made to help me in any way, shape, or form. Especially women. I mean, it's been a long time since, they didn't want to give you the rights for credit. They didn't want to give you rights, to have a bank account, to own anything, it vote, all of that stuff. Okay? Let's look at women. They didn't want you in there at all. So why would you think? And then the minute that they do have you in there, you're still going to feel the prejudice, okay, the systemic genderism that they have in there. So we're looking at things, you're looking at also systemic racism, but most of all, the foundation of this is a systemic genderism, all embedded in the patriarchal culture. And you actually think that voting and participating in their system, it's insane to keep doing it and you don't see any sort of evidence of that, even when you're voting. And if we have not learned anything, if anything, we have learned in this whole process, looking at the person that's representing the United States government now as the president, if you that you things are not fair in that institution that they call a government, even when it comes to voting. It's just a dream, and this thing with the politics with Democrats and Republicans, it's been absolutely clear that they have been compromised. Uh, they have been compromised, okay, by the state of Israel through APAC money, Democrats and Republicans. That whole organization and institution, and then we start to look at this more on a global level. I think all of them have been compromised globally because nobody is trying this nation for war crimes, and they have committed a lot of them. So they have, again, patriarch and his money, his power. They have bought their power with their money. Okay, because nobody is sitting them down. I don't think people are paying attention to that. You have UN, you have NATO, and yet they know, you're absolutely seeing that these are war crimes being committed. Now, if it would have been Africa or somebody doing it, okay, you would have set them down. If there was, you would have set them down, hurry up and grab them down and set them down and did something with them. Okay, if it was Pakistan, Iraq, or somebody that was doing, y'all hurry up and set them down. But you're not doing that. Okay, you're actually using a lot of propaganda and shifting it to make Iran look like, hey, how dare you fight us back and not let us abuse you and tell you what to do. You're actually making them look like the bad guy when really they're in this situation. They are not. There's a lack of accountability, and this will go on. They're going to make the victims feel bad, the e-file victims feel bad about calling Trump out. How dare you, victim, have any feelings about what he did to you? You're not important. He can do anything he wants to you. This is what's happening here. It's also showing you that globally, we're looking at people that don't mind hurting women and children because nobody's holding them accountable. You can't say you do, because if you did, it wouldn't even have gotten this far. Can't say that you care about women and children. You can't say that's on the agenda. And I'm very, don't the emotions that run through me, because this has been going on for thousands of years. And a lot of us, I don't know if we don't realize what's going on, or we're too afraid to see what's going on, or we're so brainwashed, we think that one day they're going to wake up and they're going to make things better. And it's just not going to happen. They're too comfortable with doing this. This is going to be ongoing. This is not going to, I can say that with surety. It's not going to stop until women stop it. Until someone be brave enough and courageous enough to walk away and stop trying to feed the monster, because that's what's powering the monster, trying to participate, using their system. This is to further make sure that you are brainwashed. And people like me that come over here and talk like this, I get accused of being crazy. Many of us that speak like this, and we think outside of their little boxes they want us to be in, we get accused of being crazy or being bitter or hurt or something like that. No, when we just simply see this stuff don't work and it's insane. You're asking me to be mentally ill with you. You asking me to regress and not grow and become my best self. And you feel comfortable with keeping me back, standing in this darkness with you. Okay? They don't want to. They don't want to hear that. They want you to conform. Just go back and forth. Take the time and listen and sit with what is going on around you. Look at what the Republicans are saying and what the Democrats are saying. Democrats saying we can't do nothing until we go to the polls. Are you serious? People are being slaughtered here, and you talking about a poll, a piece of. Are you serious here? Real lives are in danger, but the system is more important than the lives. The insanity is so overwhelming, and then you wonder why people, especially women, suffer from mental illness and their mental health is being impacted. It's because of an environment that normalize abuse. You have abuse culture here. That's what we have here. We have abuse culture, and the United States is fighting hard to implement that abuse culture as a normal practice. You sit with that for a minute. That's my opinion of it. I can't because there is no uh it's no logic to it at all. It's like being, it's like watching a narcissist on a grand scale, except the whole country is in a relationship with this narcissist that constantly lies and gaslight the whole country. You're seeing it for yourself. This man is sitting and won't take any accountability. He'll go to blaming somebody else. If that's not the narcissist, I don't know what it is. This further confirms our discussion when we talked about how they use dark psychology, the dark triads, as the foundation of a lot of their ideologies. It's based on narcissism, Machiavellism, psychopathy. That's what you're seeing there. Okay, you seeing it with your own self, with your own eyes. And then what does the narcissist do? He makes everyone around him sick. Everybody else has got to dance to his music. They know he crazy, but now they're his flying monkeys. Now he has an office full of flying monkeys. That's what you're seeing there. And that's not gonna be pretty. When all this calm down, I know a lot of you think, oh, when this calms down and the war is over, we can address these e-files and we can get them out of office. No, because they have been fed the monster and they have not given them accountability, it's going to wreak havoc on women and children even more. And you can see it with that Christian nationalism that they have been using to indoctrinate and brainwash some of the soldiers in the military. Oh, this gonna go in full swing. When that dust do settle, it's gonna be just like that. You best believe that because these people, just by them not acknowledging that you started this and you did this to this country, that's letting you know that the behavior and stuff is going to be ongoing. There's not going to be an accountability for that. That's not even in sight. I have to tell you like this, okay? Because you haven't seen any evidence of that. And I don't want you to think that you're going to get any type of justice when this dust do settle. They're not going to hold him accountable. They're not going to do it. Okay? This will be normalized uh, behavior. You're seeing it right now. They're letting you know that. Moments like this compel many women to ask urgent questions. What kind of world are we building? Who is this? Who is building it? For many spiritual women and community leaders, the answer lies in returning to a model humanity once knew well, the matriarchal principle. Okay? So going back to a matriarchal society, building those systems again, that is what in my opinion, I believe, I recommend, highly recommend, that's going to bring the world back into balance. And it will be up on the shoulders of women. It will not be men to do it. And so it's important, Queen, for you to start seeing yourself as a leader. You you are a leader. If they will let a buffoon go up there and do that, you can tell they're not smart because you just let a buffoon up there. Yes, you have leadership abilities. You have raised families. You run a whole home. So yes, you have better leadership abilities than he do. Okay? So get that in your head right now. I need you to start thinking like that so we can stop thinking that they're protectors and they're going to save us. You are leaders. You were born a leader. We have to start thinking like that. Look at the example we got up there. He's a buffoon. Okay? So yes, you were born a leader. Okay? Who's leading these families? When you look at it in nature, who's leading the family? It's usually going to be the female. You were born a leader. He was not. So we have to start thinking like that and start moving like that in our communities and coming together like that. We are not outsmarted. We are out organized. Okay? You'll hear me say that so many times. The Cosmic Mother Ministry was created to address exactly this need. It exists as a spiritual communal space where women can gather, heal, organize, and begin imagining a new way forward. At our core, it's our recognition that women carry not only the biological power of life, but also the cultural and spiritual wisdom necessary to guide communities toward balance. We have that because nobody's going to keep doing that with them. And I think we have it even more with the younger generation because I think with the older women, we've gotten comfortable with this. And I don't want to pass this on to future generations because it's not right that they bear this. That is not right and fair to them. And I think a lot of us older women, we have gotten comfortable with this. We got a lot of pygmies in here. We love, but I believe with the new generation that's coming up, that's coming in, and they're seeing all of this. Some of them are coming in with this sort of wisdom. I do think with them, this movement has the potential to impact the world. But for with the older women, I have to question some of you because some of us have become pygmies and we pass some of this and normalize a lot of this abuse and it's passing it down. Some of us have hurt our children, let these men hurt our children. We got to address it because it's in our community. It is in our lives. It is happening to us. Okay? The ministry was founded on understanding that women require sacred spaces to reconnect with one another, reclaim their authority, and cultivate communities rooted in care rather than domination. Cosmic Mother Ministry encourages women to step into leadership roles within their families, spiritual circles, and neighborhoods, creating networks of support that can eventually grow into broader matriarchal communities. Got to start thinking that way. I give us maybe a good 4 or 5 years before things go into full swing with them, before we start seeing the backlash of that. It's coming. Can't say it ain't coming. Now, if you'd have saw this, somebody would have told you this. If I would have told you this maybe 10 years ago, you would have said, "Oh, Miss Penny, no way, no way, no way." Look at the writing at the wall. Look at the writing on the wall. Okay? Look at what's going on around you. How it's impacting women, and some of it is directly targeted towards you. To understand why this work matters today, it is important to explore the history of matriarchy itself. So let's look at the history of matriarchy, because when we look at our great mothers and look at the work that they were doing and how they ran communities, it gives us a good indication on how we can bring balance into the world and start healing our community. Okay, so looking at their format, show how we can connect with our communities, build better communities. Okay, and how that should look, how that should uh, look, these healthy relationships, whether it be political and social, how that should look. So by looking at these matriarchal society, because there's plenty of information out there, there are still plenty of matriarchal societies that still exist today. And looking at that balance of power and how we can use it uh, to fix and bring healing to our own world, or even just to create a better society. Okay, so that's what we need to be looking at, and we're going to be looking at that a lot in our community. Cosmic Mother Ministries. We're also looking. Just did a great cover on our spiritual history, looking at the womb sciences and how that womb sciences was hijacked by the patriarchs and reinterpreted. So we're always looking at things like that, uh, and really looking at how we can build spiritual structures that can grow into communities. So that's going to be, I think that's very paramount, because that's usually how our matriarch system works. It was not separate from our spiritual sovereignty. I hope that this is making sense to you. And then you see patriarchs go behind us and try to do mimic us. Believe me, he mimicked and copied all of this. Matriarchy, a system where women hold primary power in leadership, inheritance, and family structure, has long fascinated scholars and anthropologists. Yet the concept is often misunderstood. Many assume matriarchy simply means reversing the roles of patriarchy, where women dominate men. In reality, historical matriarchal societies were rarely about domination. Instead, they emphasize balance, cooperation, and collective well being. It's totally different from when men think about this, they think about, oh, it's just women are going to abuse us and do us the way we've done them. The same way that pale face people think, many of them think that if dark people of color get power, they're gonna abuse them and do them the way they have done them. So you see this same thing going on, and that's not even how it functions at all. Doesn't work like that. We work from a place of inclusion and not separation or these crazy statuses that you guys have created. We include everyone. Okay, we are worried about the whole well-being of everyone, not just ourselves, the way you have done and started this war and said, "Oh, the American can make a whole bunch of money." How? And we don't see none of it. You already taxing us like crazy. The food already expensive. Now the gasoline and stuff is going to go up, and the food is going to go up again. So how the hell is it's benefiting American citizens? It's not. It's not. And I've heard so many women, we're so mad, we spew so much hate, and we talk about patriarchy. I just had to talk about that on my other YouTube channel. We talk about patriarchy. We talk about how crazy, they are. We want to get away from them. We have these, podcasts where we talk about it. But what society are you creating to separate yourself from it? A lot of talking is going on. A lot of and that's what he wants to go on, because he knows as long as you talking and you mad, you aren't gonna do nothing. But with the narcissist, what you have to do is you have to remove yourself from them and create a whole happy life. They're not going to see themselves until they see you living their happy life and how miserable they are. So it doesn't matter how much you fight the air. It doesn't matter how many podcasts you create, you talk about and bring light to it. How many live streams, you have discussions and just, ridicule men. It's not going to change it. The only thing that's going to change it is action. We've been talking about this for 1,000 years with them, and it doesn't make any sense. He's not going to make sense of it. As a matter of fact, he's going to find a way to justify what you're saying is wrong and that you're too emotional and that you're stupid and he's more, reasonable than you and why he should be ruling over you. That's just going to go back and forth. That's how that's going to go. That's how those discussions going to go. And some of you, some of us think that we're still falling for these nuclear relationships and nuclear families. When we really got some real questions, some real hard questions to ask ourselves. Some of us want to be acknowledged. We want the attention of them. Women in these societies often held central roles not only within the family, but also in spiritual leadership, governance, and economic organization. Rather than structuring societies around hierarchy and competition, that's what they have here with the election. They're competing against each other. You really think you getting somebody different with the Democrats and Republicans when they the same head of the monster, two heads of the same monster. They ain't getting nothing different. They say, "Oh, we're gonna put a woman in there. We're gonna put a woman in there." No, you ain't gonna get nothing different because she have to go by the rules and regulations that the patriarchs has set up in their crazy system. So at some point, she gonna be compromised up in there. She has to lose a sense of self to serve them. You already know how this go. I don't advise it. Okay, it's just insane to keep doing something over and over again, and you get the same results. Nothing is going anywhere. Nothing is going anywhere. If you've ever been in a relationship with the narcissist, and this you ever been in a relationship with the narcissist, that first person you meet, the mess you meet, you're just like, oh, he's just the man of my dreams, or she's the woman of my dreams. Oh my gosh. Goes well for about 6 or 7 months. And then you lose that mask is gone, you get a chance to see them. And you're fighting to get that mask back because you think it's their true self. You think that's really them. You think that was a real them. No, that was never them. Okay? Now the mask has dropped. You're never going to get that again. It's a ruse. It's a way to draw you in. The same way they do with they do when they have these campaigns and these competitions. That's what that is. They're messing with your mind. They're playing with you. They'll even put somebody up there that look just like you to fool you, to gaslight you. Okay? That's what you're dealing with there. And if you go, the more you go into psychology, because you see in America that the mental health is a big thing there because the whole ideologies of that government is built on dark psychology. It is. So your mind going every there's a lot of people there impacted mentally by that because of that. Okay? Nobody's focusing on that, just like when instead of focusing on the fact that they did this to these people, they're focusing on the fact they're focusing on Iran protecting itself and making that look bad instead of holding these people accountable that went over there and started that. That's dark psychology. That's gaslighting on a mass level. It should be against the law. And then they're pushing propaganda, further messing with your mind, gaslighting you on a mass scale. And then so many people, minds that lack the capacity to think, they absorb and download this information as fact. And some of them will fight you about it. That's what we're dealing with today. Now, a lot of people say, oh, they're NPCs or UPCs or whatever. It's very alarming to look at, because we're looking at people that fail to do critical thinking. That makes it harder too. I did, it's very scary to think about how many people are susceptible to brainwashing and that lack the capacity to think for themselves. And people that are thinking for themselves, that take themselves out of these little boxing programs they try to put people in, they try to eliminate or censor them. That's what they kind of want to do to, again, look at Iran. Iran is different. It's not conforming. It's staying authentic to what it truly is. But then you have to look at Iran too. There's probably a need for regime change there that needs to be done by them and not by outside force. So both of them are kind of holding mirrors up to each other. But America more so, because now you got somebody who will check you about your domination, and you're not used to it, and now you want to throw a tantrum, and you want to sacrifice as many people as you can to show you got more power. I don't know what you got going on with you. Instead of taking the L and say, okay, I miscalculated, let me sit down. I do not want to risk innocent lives because of my mistake. This is my mistake, and I hold myself accountable. And by watching this is letting you know how that Epstein case gonna turn out for you. You're gonna be mad again when this dies down, because you're not gonna get any justice for that. I wouldn't be surprised if he's working on a campaign right now to normalize that. He would rather normalize that and make that okay rather than admit that he has a problem. And we've seen a lot of this, not only with him, but we've seen it in our relationships as well. He's no different than any relationship that we have personally been in a marriage. Same thing, just on a grander scale. That's who you're looking at. And you're looking at his flying monkeys that's not going to hold him accountable. It's very dangerous for him to have this power. And yes, it would impact you. It's probably going to make it even worse when you bring it up, because this is probably the time too you're going to see a handmaid's tale happen. When it's time to hold him accountable, it's going to be he going to do a handmaid's tale on you. When women do start rallying, getting in the street and being, a handmaid's tale is going to happen. It is there. They were already doing that, with these women and children. Now it will be institutionalized. The minute that you get in that street and start marching women and be so mad about what he has done or whatever, they're gonna be start forming these kind of laws and organization. It was gonna put a split into the nation. The nation is gonna be a civil war. So after this war, a civil war is gonna be coming right there in that land. It's been brewing for some time now. And the Epstein files, the way they handle the Epstein file is going to put a break in that land. Now, you don't have to believe me, okay? You don't have to believe me, but it's right there. It's brewing. All the ingredients are there, and they're cooking. They're cooking. Everything is cooking right now, and it'll be done in a minute. Okay, and he's trying to wrap it up during this election because he's going to take you through another trauma episode through this election dealing with these Epstein files. He's up to doing something tricky because we're trying to escape accountability, and the only way to escape accountability is try to stay in power. Okay, not trying to scare you, but trying to get you out of la la land and start looking at reality and seeing how imperative it is to start having your own to leave that society and start creating another one. And and if there, and I'm sure there's a lot of women communities out there that's for women by women. I urge you to start, you know, bringing that together cohesively in a way that it becomes an entire society that women and children can thrive in. Because the organization stands separated like that, it's not going to have the impact and serve the needs of the women being separated like that. Uh, is just not going to have a great impact versus if you were to bring that together into a more working for a society of women, you'll have a better impact. I hope that made sense. Okay. Ancient civilizations offer compelling examples of these principles. When we look at the Minoan civilization, we look at the Minoan civilization between 3000 and 1100 BCE is frequently cited as a culture where women held prominent social religious authority. Archaeological discoveries such as the frescoes, ceremonial artifacts suggest that women played visible roles in religious rituals and public life. One of the most striking symbols from this culture is the image of the snake goddess, a figure associated with fertility, renewal, and sacred cycles of nature. These images suggest society that deeply revered feminine spiritual power. And so when we go look back at the ancient history of, go back and look at the ancient history, we start looking at these little idols or these little figurines where women were looked at as God. Okay. We start looking at these things. And we look at too how women, they had the authority. They were running their communities and they were having the children. And many of these children would turn into clans, into tribes, and we ran again our clans and our tribes. It all started from us first. After all, we were the one birthing humans. Okay. I think in one of my books, was that in the Indus Valley? They was talking about that it was one black woman that went there and she gave birth to the whole civilization. I think you can find that in my book. You can find it in that topic in my book, Matriarch the Patriarch. Okay. Another ancient civilization, hence a matriarchal tradition, is the Indus Valley civilization, which flourished between 3300 BCE to 1900 BCE across regions now include parts of India and Pakistan. One woman went there and created that whole civilization. Start off as a tribe. Okay, so you have the possibility to repopulate and create a whole new society that is more healthy than the one that he has created. His world doesn't work without you because if he doesn't have any people, it doesn't work. Now they've tried with this cloning stuff. I don't think that's going well for them at all. I think there's some hiccups with that. Okay. If it was working well, you wouldn't be trying to control women portals in our reproductive system. It can't be turning out well for you. It can't be flawless for you. So you need our wombs. Terracotta figurines representing female deities appear throughout the archaeological sites, indicating that goddess worship played a central role in spiritual life. Although historians still debate the political structure of the civilization, the prominence of the feminine symbolism suggests that the feminine principle was central to the culture's worldview. Got to get back to that and healing the land and separating ourselves from them, going back to the matriarch society. Matriarchal principles also existed among the indigenous societies that continue into more recent history. The Iroquois Confederacy of North America is one of the most well documented examples. In this alliance, the Native nations' clan mothers held immense influence within the political system. They were responsible for selecting male leaders and had the authority to remove them if they failed to serve the community responsibly. Property and inheritance were passed through the female line, ensuring that the women maintained economic stability and authority within their societies. I talked about this very extensively in my book, Matriarch the Patriarch. Lets you know why these men were marrying these women, and you start seeing a lot of these Moorish children. You see a lot of these cultures start to cross over, especially when we look at the Creoles and we look at the nation of Washita and her relationship with the French. You start seeing, and just looking in the Bible as well, you're seeing, these men are marrying these women because they are the ones who have the wealth. A great example of this is when you look at the prophet Muhammad and when he marries Fatima. And if you look at the prophet Muhammad, Muhammad was not, he could barely read. He was not a well educated man. Fatima she was very wealthy. She was a businesswoman. But during this time, the patriarchs began to take over and throw over the matriarch queendoms. And so she needed a man to represent her in business and take care of some of her affairs. And so Fatima, I don't think, just looking at that story, I'm not sure if she wanted to marry him. Uh, I think it was more out of the necessity to run her business and survive. She needed a man to represent her. Okay, so you have a lot of these men that were again marrying these women because of their wealth and because of their them owning the property of the land. And you're seeing a lot of that going low key in your Bible when you're seeing a lot of these Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, they're marrying these women because these women, most of them came with wealth. Okay, and a lot of them were spiritual leaders as well. And many spiritual leaders women were spiritual leaders in the ancient land. They held a lot of wealth and power because of their spiritual authority. And so, in order for men to have access to that, again, those patriarch wars happened, and they were, where they really, a lot of these women that they marry, a lot of them, they was just taking them. But they give you paint a pretty little picture in their books. But what is going on there is a lot of femicide is going on there. That's who's being attacked. That's what that recording is about. Because if they would show you and tell you about how they gain power, is they using that Bible, that mythical Bible, to tell a story of femicide. They're not gonna tell you that. They're gonna make you think, oh, we just killing a whole bunch of pagans. But you see a glimpse of that when you see the Catholic Church and uh you see these institutions go up against the witches. Now the witches is the problem. Why? Because many of these witches were wealthy and they owned a lot of land, and the church wanted access to that. So now they have to make them look like, oh, they're bad. Same thing that you're seeing with Iran and the United States and Israel. Same thing. The same hoaxing, the same gaslighting, the same rhetoric. Same thing. They did it on you first, woman. Made you look like what you was doing, you was bad. It was bad for you to understand that spirituality and sexuality were one and the same thing. You a harlot, you a whore. And yet he took the tantric sciences and corrupted it and made it something ugly. But when you did it and was practicing the right way, you were evil, you were a whore, you were a harlot. Okay? Sit with it and think, sit with it. I know this is a lot to take in. Okay? And I want to come here and I want to say, be mad with you too. Um, I'm upset about what's happening to us too. But where does it get us? It doesn't get us anywhere. Okay? In each of these cultures, matriarchy was expressed not simply through leadership roles, but through a broader worldview centered on balance and interconnection. The feminine principles symbolize fertility, renewal, wisdom, and the continuity of life. Communities understood that women, as life givers and cultural carriers, were uniquely positioned to guide social harmony. This reference for women challenged many of the gender assumptions that dominate modern societies. Rather than marginalizing female voices, these cultures place women at the center of social organization. Leadership was defined not by aggression or conquest, but by wisdom, responsibility, and the ability to nurture collective well being. That's power. That's real power, you guys. Okay, that's real unity. That's real nurturing and caring for the people around you. And we're lacking that in those systems and institutions. Instead, they have been created to stroke men's fragile ego and not even nurture. I mean, they're so disconnected from from the community and the citizens. It's crazy. They have no connection. They have no relationship with the community. They are so far away from our needs and don't want to acknowledge them. But with the matriarch society, it's much different from that. Okay, because we're coming from a place from the great mother and not a place from, this misogyny and egotistical patriarchy that thinks I am so important and everything should revolve around me. It's just not so. Today, these ancient models offer important lessons. The resilience of matriarchal society demonstrates that humanity does not have to organize itself around domination and conflict. There are alternative systems rooted in cooperation, shared leadership, and reverence for life. These principles are not relics of the past, they are blueprints for the future. And I think a lot of women that are leaving religions and going into an earth-based practices, and they're leaving major, religions, they are understanding that. Okay, they are coming to terms with that, especially for the women that are they're they're really leaning into their divine feminine. They're understanding more about the divine feminine. They're understanding more about themselves. Uh, and I have to say, I'm seeing it happening more with the younger generation than I am with the older generation. Okay, and I think that right there is a sign of hope that things can change for us. That things can be put back in the balance. It's not impossible. It's just going to take a lot of action and less complaining. Okay. You know, How many times have we complained to that narcissist? We don't like this. We don't like this. We don't like this. Please stop this. I wish this relationship would change and just never change. And some of us do it for years until we start looking worse and worse and worse, and narcissists just suck us dry. And by the time we do get out that door, it takes us, baby, 5 or 6 years to come back to our right mind after doing that for years and years and years, thinking that man is going to change or that person is going to change, and they never change. Same thing you're dealing with here, no different. No different. Okay? And we can complain all we want to. At some point, we have to walk away. A global crisis intensifies war. As global crisis intensify war, climate instability, economic inequality, and rising hostility toward women, many people are beginning to recognize the limitation of patriarchal governance. Increasingly aggressive political movements targeting women's autonomy, reproductive rights, and social participation reveal how fragile gender equality remains. You're still going to see that. And I don't even want to talk about, what has happened in this war to women during this time. Because all kinds of atrocities and things go on to women during war that they sweep up under a rug. And this even happens to women that's serving right by their again, their allies. Okay, this happens to them. I can't tell you how many assaults that have happened to women in the military, and it goes ignored. I can't tell you how many women have been unalived by their own soldiers, comrades, and then the military tell you they don't know what happened to them, but they're being violated and unalived by some of their own comrades, and it's getting swept up under the rug. You see that go on too. You might see a lot of stories of that come out after this dies down. Okay, it's gonna it happens, but it goes it goes unnoticed. They don't like talking about it. Today, it may be necessary for women to once again think seriously about creating safe havens and organizations dedicated to their protection. Safe havens do not necessarily mean isolated compounds or extreme measures. They can take the form of supportive communities, women led organizations, educational networks, legal advocacy groups, and spaces where women and children can access resources, safety, and empowerment. The goal is not to promote fear, but to encourage preparation, awareness, and collective strength. Prepare, 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 prepare. I say you got about 5 or 6 years to make this foolproof before this craziness begins to happen. Because once this stops, then we got to address the issues that's coming that's going on in the United States, which is home. Okay? And the civil distress will happen because too many people are upset and in arms about this Epstein thing. And we already know he started this stuff so he can avoid it. And some of us, we're saying, no, we're not going to forget. Even when this is over, we're not going to forget. We're going to be talking about this. But he thinking too that this will be so intensified that you will probably forget about this at the polls, they midterm. But it's not going to be forgotten. Okay. I have a feeling that's going to turn out a hoo ha mess. And again, jaws are going to drop with what else he does. I firmly believe I don't know the guy name. I forgot his name, but I was looking at a video where the guy was talking about this older gentleman. He was talking about how he'll trust Trump, his son's life in this war. with Trump over it. Who saw that? Did anyone see that video and how his voice was shaking when he was talking about it? I'm gonna tell you what the great mother told me. Who saw that video? Because I don't want to talk about it and you haven't seen it. Have anyone seen that video? It was an older man, and they were asking him about how the war was going. And he was talking about, he said, hey, I tell you what, if my son was in this war right now, I would trust this organization, trust my son's life with this organization. And he was the way his eyes and stuff was shifting. And you're saying this, but the tone that you're saying this is like you're frightened. You're afraid. And I'm like, what is going on here? Well, by telling you that, he's letting you know that these people got their hands on his son. And they have threatened to put his son in the front line of that war if he did not make that statement to assure the American population that this war was under control. There was fear in that man, and it was surrounding his son. There was a threat on his son. They had threatened his son, but he's having this swing it that way to ensure to the American people that this war is under control. Go back and watch that video. Okay? So there's a lot of propaganda going on, and there's a lot of threats and stuff that's going on with this organization, with this administration. That's just how, corrupt that organization is, that administration is. Women have always been powerful builders of community. They have protected families, preserved culture, wisdom, and created networks that sustain life even in the most difficult circumstances. When women organize together, they become a force capable of shaping the direction of society itself. Because we are the trailblazers, we are the first teachers, we are the first God. And we have to show them that they're not going to listen until they see it with their own eyes. It's hard to talk to them. Can't talk to them. You have to show them. Okay? Nobody could tell that man, you know, don't go over there and do that. Don't go over there and do. But now you see, okay, why supposed to be doing that? So to make a believer out of men of the XY chromosome, I think it's because of the way they mind work. They don't believe a lot of things until they see it. And I'm talking about personal experience where I have sat down and talked about their violent behavior, and it's been informed to me by professionals that men minimize their behavior until they see the consequences of them. And it takes longer for them to understand the impact of their consequences. I'm not making it up. And usually this is done by something catastrophic. Something catastrophic has to happen uh, to help them, you know, understand what's going on. I'm not making it up. Okay. I can remember, I was telling my daughter, I can remember seeing my sister-in-law. I think she has 4 boys, and her son had did something, and the way she lit into him, I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, wait a minute, hold on, slow it down a little bit. She said, no, I know what I'm doing. She said, the way you approach boys is very different from where you approach girls. She said, you can pretty much talk to your girls very stern and get them in line. Boys are very different. Okay. She said, because of the way they are, the aggression. So I have to be touching them while I'm talking to them. Because that's the way they understand. She said, I know what I'm doing. And I got to say that woman raised 4 boys. And I think my sister-in-law, she probably 4'9". She's a very short woman. And you can't pay either one of her sons, and they're hoovering over her. You can't pay either one of her sons to disrespect her. And she was a single parent. But yet I had girls, I'm just like, oh, wait a minute, slow down, slow down. And she's like, I know what I'm doing. This is how you do this. Because I'm not raising wimps. And I don't want them to think that they can ever do something to me. Because it ain't going to happen. Okay? And so, and she raised them up, and they highly respect her. They highly respect her. So, again, I would have not believed that had I not seen it with my own eyes. And I've heard other men say that because the men are always testing their strength, they're always testing their aggression. And this is just their chemical makeup. It's nothing that they can help. Okay? The message for this moment is clear. Awareness is power. Women must stay informed, support one another, build structures that safeguard their autonomy and dignity. By forming strong communities and protective networks, women can ensure that they are not passive witnesses to political change, but active participants in shaping a safer and more just future for themselves and for generations to follow. Okay? Policies designed to restrict rights and silence voices reinforce systems that have historically excluded a large portions of humanity for decision-making power. This is why building matriarchal communities have become not only desirable but necessary. Matriarchies today do not require the overthrow of government or the creation of isolated societies. Okay? They begin at grassroots levels through intentional networks of care and solidarity. A matriarchal community forms whenever women gather with shared purpose and begin organizing systems that support collective well being. Okay? Again, creating a whole institution, a whole society that focus on women by women with not a man in sight. That's going to have a woman network for women by women, right there in their faces. That not don't include them. Okay, right there in their faces. You could do that right there in their faces. Nobody's got to do what. Nobody's trying to participate in what you got going on. We got our own thing going on that revolves around women, around our needs. You have created something that revolves around your needs. Women have to create something that revolve around your needs. His government was never created for equality. He never set up a civilization. It was built off your model, your blueprint to exclude women and children, to abuse women and children. That's what it was built for. And he could tell you all day long, that's not why I did that. That's not, that ain't true. I didn't do anything like that. That's not okay. Let's go look at the statistics and look at the equality that you provide across the board in your organizations. Let's go look at it. I bet you those numbers are going to be crazy. Okay? I don't care what they're saying. I have to look at the experience and the results of it because it's not adding up. You've never been fair. You've never treated women equal as you. You never give regard to women and children and their well-being. It don't show that. You'd rather go out there and spend $1 billion on war, and you got homeless people there in America that's sleeping, that's making cars and trucks into houses. Some people sleeping in tents. Some people living in hotels. But you got billions of dollars to spend every day on a war. But you care about women and children. You care about the citizens there. and you're sending troops that we don't even have into a war that they're probably not going to make it out of. I'm just, you know, and I think for a lot of us that have begun to awaken and tap into our divine feminine, and that are getting this type of insight and wisdom from the great mother, uh, it makes it hard to come here and have this conversation with people, with a lot of people that have not awakened uh, to this. Makes it very hard, okay? Because they have did thousands, over 6,000 years of indoctrinating humanity with this ignorance. And so undoing this is very hard to undo this. It really is. It really is. And even to come here and talk about it, because I wrote my book, Matriarch the Patriarch, 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, and people were not ready for it. They were not, even though I had received this information years ago. But I looked at my environment; they were not ready for it, and women, uh, they were not aware of what was going on. But now more women are becoming more aware, and we also know that we got to fight against us because we have some women that that really believe that there is hope uh, with them living with them like that, and it's just there's no evidence of that. That's a dream. There's no evidence of that. It's the opposite. There's no evidence that this is going to be, he's going to wake up and he's just going to be, all right tomorrow and he's going to save the world. There's no evidence of that in sight. In fact, it's contrary, it's the total opposite. Okay? It's the total opposite. The first step is connection. Women, I think it's good for women to find one another and cultivate trust because we have lost our trust trying to compete for their attention. And so, trusting each other, we have to build that trust. I think this is the most hardest thing. And it seems like to me, we tend to build um, communities based on trauma bonding. We go to talking about what he's done and all the ridicule and all that, so real connection and real things are not happening because I feel like there is some trauma dumping and some trauma bonding going on, whether creating versus creating connection and community. I think we're connecting in an unhealthy way. Okay, this can begin with small gatherings, spiritual circles, discussion groups, healing workshops, or neighborhood meetings. The purpose of these gatherings is to create space where women can share experiences, exchange wisdom, and build genuine relationships. I have the hardest time, uh, and I'm sure other women, I have the hardest time getting women to engage. I got a lot of them right now. They're sitting in this post, probably watching me right now, not engaging, not talking. Probably gonna go around and tell me there's something wrong with me. I've been hurt. I'm gay. I'm trying to turn women against men. I'm trying to break up the household. All this stuff is going to be said with these folks. Hi, Fedora. Hi. I'm doing good. Got a lot of them right now. It's so hard to talk to women. It's hard to talk to women. They have made us judge each other, very critical of each other, mistrusting of each other, trying to throw each other under the bus. competing with each other. It's just that they have put the patriarch spirit in women. I'm just gonna keep it simple like that. Now you walking around with a masculine mind because you've been brainwashed by patriarchy. Cause he don't trust women and he treat women bad, then you gonna do the same shit, and then you gonna co-sign the shit that he do to women. It's women like that. It's women do that. Women are more likely to support. Oh, they would support a Professor Umar Johnson. Oh, women would go out their way and throw themselves down. Oh, they're gonna support Nature Boy. Oh, honey, they'll sacrifice their life, their body, and all that stuff to get. Oh, yeah, yeah, they will. Yes, they will. Okay, they will go out there and support Brother Polite. Yes, and they'll go out there and support Bobby Hemmett, even though none of this stuff reflects the men in their community. You'll do it anyway. You do it. You'll get right in that cult. But let a woman come here and tell you something and be telling the truth. You're gonna find something wrong with that woman. It's the most craziest. It's the most craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. But let a man say something. Y'all hold on to that for dear life. It's the brainwashing. Yes, women think that having a male brain and behaving like a man is better, especially in a professional setting. They do. Yeah, support these men in New York Minute, and it always turns out bad. It always turns into some type of little cult. Always turns, it's your demise. But we be the first one front and center. If we support even they patriarch church, even though they Bible and their system, their doctrines go against women. Well, we're gonna be the first one support. It's the brainwashing on the level that, boy, look at here. I don't know if that's trauma, DNA trauma. I don't know what that is, but women do it, and they'd be the the main genders promoting this stuff. They be the main genders supporting it. They be the main one holding it up, holding up these patriarch structures. Then telling women they evil, they of the devil, they hate men and all that stuff. When you're under a whole organization that's built on the unaliving and abuse of women and children, while at the same time accusing a woman of hating men. It's so many of our sisters are sick. It's so many of our women are sick like this. They are sick. Okay, they're not gonna support each other. But I guarantee you this, and I'm putting it out there so you can't say you haven't heard it before. You can't say no one ever told me this. I never saw it from this perspective. No one was talking about it from this perspective. No one ever told me that. No elder ever said anything. I'm saying it to you now. It's gonna be a time where you gonna wish you put yourself first. You gonna wish you put women first. You gonna wish that you you put yourself first. You put your children and yourself first. It's gonna be a time. It's coming. It's gonna be a time with this conversation. You just conversation that I'm having with you now. It's gonna come up. Okay, you really have no excuse. Once a network begins to form, the community can establish shared values. These values often include mutual care, collective responsibility, justice, and protection of vulnerable members. A matriarchal community is not built around hierarchy, but around collaboration. Okay, this ain't about me trying to us trying to compete with each other and vote with each other and all that stuff. No, this is about, hey, how can we build a better community? How can we safeguard our children and our women? How should this network and society look ran by us for us? How can we prevent corruption and unbalance in our society, in our community? We've seen where they made mistakes. We want to avoid these mistakes. And what was our mistake? Uh, what was our mistake that interrupted our institution and establishment? I can answer that good for you. But collectively and collaboratively coming together and having these topics and talks, because we are not, these men have spent hundreds of years having these topics of discussion to be able to overthrow the divine feminine power on this planet. And so it would take women getting together, uh, us having committees talking about this, just like they have committees and stuff where ain't a woman in sight, uh, and they talking about the future for us. Ain't a woman and a child in sight, but they're talking about the future of how they gonna run the world. The same thing needs to happen with women. I don't give a damn about the 13 families, the Rothschilds. I don't care about none of that. Because all of it is based on patriarchal ideology. Yes, women think we're having a male. Also, one point to notice, women energy for mentoring other women and girls are also monetary resources for enriching women's minds. It is. Okay. But women, a lot of women, they're, it's the mind. We got so much work to do because patriarchy, it is a virus that really contaminates people's minds and spirits. And so it takes a minute for women to really sit with what is going on and try to process this. Then you have women that's so wrapped up, they have sons. They have sons, or they have a lot of males in their family, so they're torn between that. But I invite you to sit down with that. Probably need to start opening up some discussions of your recent revelations, okay, and your discoveries. Time to start having some conversations about this. And no one's telling you, uh, that you got to outright just start putting all the men out of your life. What I'm saying that you need to start putting yourself first and understanding who you truly are and walking in that sovereignty and helping them understand who you are. It doesn't mean that you have to put them away or whatever choice that you make, but it's important that you understand who you are and what role you play. It needs to be talked about. It needs to be a pet. That's collectively eye shadow work too. And for women, this is going to keep coming around and falling back on you. And we keep saying, this collective shadow work for all of us. I just talked about that in the hoodoo community, but I'm talking to the women. It's going to keep coming back around on you. Why they keep doing this to us? Why they keep, doing this to our children? Why they keep doing this to us? Why they keep, because you need to get somewhere and focus on you. That's the problem. You need to put you first. This is all about self-love. He done put himself in the middle of it and made it to where you worship him and he supposed to be worshiping you. That's the problem. But you keep putting him in the center of your world. And you're gonna be crazy and confused every time you do this. Every time you do this, you're gonna be confused. You're gonna go right back to square one. I'm telling you this from experience. Nothing that I made up. I don't even need to look in a book to tell you this. I can tell you this from my own experience and wisdom that I have gained. Until you put yourself in the center of it, you're not gonna see the shift that you want. Until you get educated about who you are and your role here, you ain't gonna see no results. And you have to show them, not talk to them. You have to actively be doing something. You have to actively be showing. Usually get the narcissist's attention when you ain't studying them and you got stuff going on. They can't wait to be in the center of your world. What you got going on? I want to know what you got going. I want to help you. Oh, I love you. I'm so sorry. Please come back. All that's gonna happen. All that's gonna happen when women get somewhere and start focusing on them, creating their own society. You're gonna hear them come. I'm so sorry. What can I do? We don't want y'all to be like that. Please come back. We'll do anything. We'll stop our behavior. That's gonna happen on a global scale, on a collective scale. They're gonna do that. I promise you, they are. You get their attention in. Now you want to fix it. Now you want to, help. Now you want to. No, 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 no. We want you to keep that same energy. We're going to stay in control here. Okay? We're going to do this, and you stay over there. Okay? We don't need your help over here. We don't need you to help us do anything over here. And you're going to see that once women start, they mean it and they say it and they start making progress and growing in it, you will start seeing them bending knees and begging. Okay? But you can't make it, you got to make a believer out of them. And I know one day, I have hope one day I'm going to see that. And that's when your real power will come back because he has to see that that doesn't work without you. He has to be put in a position uh, to bow. You got to put him in a position to bow. He ain't been put in that position to bow, but you got to put him in there. And you have the power to do it. And I recommend women, the thing is don't share power with them. You cannot share power with a being that is, he's just not built that way. That is not his role to share any power with patriarch. It is very dangerous for them. You see that little bit of power, and I think looking at these behaviors, going back and looking at history and looking at a patriarch's rule, it tells us a lot about our behavior. This is not trying to be bashing them, gender bashing. No, I'm looking at the historical evidence of your behavior. Based on that, but you're not going to keep making the same mistake with you. You can't share power with you because there's something in your genetics that's flawed, that you go crazy with that. I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm saying there's something genetically going on with you where you start to malfunction. So no, you don't need to be around power. That's not good for you. Okay? Can't share power with them. You've shown that in history. Let's go look at the historical records and documentation. Just take them there. Okay? Let's just take you there and let's go look at what you've done to women and children historically with your stuff. Because you want this power. And when somebody did try to say, most of them too, they have unalived their mothers. Some of them have unalived their mothers, just to get power. You see some of that in some of these stories, historical records where they have done this. No, I don't recommend it at all because it's not going to turn out good. Okay? He has to be, and for you to understand that role. I don't recommend it. Some women think, well, we think we can share power with them. No, 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 you can't. Can you work with them? Possibly, when they mind right. Can you live in a society with them? Yeah, if they don't have any power. Okay, you can work with them, but it's dangerous for them to have power. They're just not, they're not built for that. They're going to abuse that. Not their fault, not blaming them because they don't understand who they are. And we went into the psychological observation. If you're on a YouTube channel, I just broke down the psychological again of their mind, their inner workings of their mind. And we can see that through Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud. We can see that because these are patriarchs talking about the inner workings of their mind, the way they think. You got it. You said this with your own fancy books. You got your people writing about you, by you, for you. Okay, so and y'all love staying on these patriarchal ideologies such as Plato, Neoplatonism, Socrates, okay, which all of these, philosophers learned from women and went on to corrupt the knowledge. But this is what a lot of y'all stuff is built off of, these corrupt ideologies that put you in the center of things. Okay, that's what you got going there. Okay. Mutual aid becomes an essential component of these communities. By pooling resources, skills, knowledge, women can address immediate needs within their circles. This might include childcare networks, food sharing. You're going to have to think about that now because it's coming. Food sharing, financial support systems, educational programs, or spiritual mentorship. These forms of cooperation strengthen the resilience against broader societal instability. Leadership within matriarchal communities is distributed rather than centralized. Different women bring different strengths. Some are organizers, others are healers, teachers, mediators, or visionaries. When leadership is shared, communities become more adaptive and inclusive. Equally important is the collective healing. Patriarchal systems have left deep emotional and physical wounds across generations, and it has. Some of these women, and there are some ones that are very supportive that has done the healing. They are not pick means. They know exactly what is going on. But there again, I think that what is left with women as well is competition. That thing has really, I mean, we will fight women over a man. I think that is a lot of what we have to unpack that has to go away. That has no place in our community. That is a trait that he has, that he has passed on to the masses, that's really prevented us from working together collectively, especially with these hierarchies and all that. When collectively all of us have to live together, so there should be a community collectively coming together, having a collaboration and a discussion, not a person saying this how it's gonna be and I'm gonna make you do it. We have to see what works for the people. That's more important. You'll see me, and I see that in my group, in our hoodoo community, we have a discussion. Even though I'm the mentor in there, I'm gonna always ask, what do you guys want to do? Because I don't want to be doing just because I want to do it don't mean that you want to do it. You know, I want feedback from you. Okay, inclusion, inclusion, inclusion. Asking people, hearing the people, and then providing what they've requested. Not just hearing them and then putting them off and never addressing their concerns. This seems to be, uh, this has been an ongoing cycle of the patriarchs. Okay, so many marginalized communities are not being heard because of their selfishness. You see it through systemic genderism, and we see it through systemic racism. This is the things that we have to unpeel. We got a lot of work to do. Got a lot of work to do. Okay. And women, we have been impacted the most. So uh doing the work is going to be paramount. Matriarchal spaces allow women to process trauma, reclaim spiritual authority, and rediscover their connection to the sacred feminine. Healing is not separate from political transformation. It is the foundation that makes new systems possible. The creation of matriarchal communities is therefore both spiritual act and a social strategy. It is an act of resistance against structures that thrive on division, violence, and domination. War and militarism provide a clear example of how patriarchal systems operate. The military often glorifies aggression, conquest, and the accumulation of power through force. And I just heard Trump say, "We're gonna bomb the mess out of them. We're gonna bomb them." I'm just, and my thing too. What would happen if Iran did the same thing to the United States of America? Because we're really comfortable because we never had to have a war out. We've had civil distress, but we've never had to have a real engaged war on that land. That would change the tunes of people. Okay? The creation of matriarch communities is therefore both a spiritual act and a social strategy. It is an act of resistance against structures that thrive on division, violence, and domination. Just read that part. These values reinforce broader patterns of sexism, racism, class inequality, um, hostility toward marginalized communities. I just said that. Women and children are disproportionately affected by war. They experience displacement, poverty, violence, and loss, even though they rarely participate in the decisions that initiate conflict. The economic burden of the military also drains resources that could otherwise support healthcare, education, housing, and environmental protection. Okay, we're seeing that right now. He took all those billions of dollars instead of reflourishing the American economy. It was more important for him to go over there and hurt innocent people and start a war that they weren't even prepared for. Women, this is something to be in up arms about. This is something to just say, you know what, I'm so tired of messing with you. Look here. It really is time for that. That this is the icing on the cake. You know, some of these people we sleeping in cars with children, we in shelters and all this sort of stuff. Can't afford stuff, can't get no help with food and all this stuff. And here you is going off doing something like this. You should be, you know, you know, it is for me. It is for me. I'm like so done. I'm like so done talking to you. Forget your political crap. Forget whatever you got going on. It don't even work. Okay, I'm tired of working with you. We've had mothers for hundreds of years trying to tell you to stop doing stuff, and you just keep on doing it. Okay, this doesn't work. Women throughout history have played essential roles in peace building and conflict resolution. Their leadership in community mediation, humanitarian efforts, and grassroots diplomacy demonstrates that alternative models of security are possible. It is possible, it's not impossible. We just have to get busy and get focused on us. Matriarchal movements can help promote these alternatives in several ways. First, they challenge the cultural glorification of the military by promoting values of cooperation and empathy and nonviolence. Okay, there was another way to do this. You would think that Why don't y'all have a place where y'all can have a war? You're so smart, you're so logical. Why don't you have a place where y'all could just mess up each other? The casualties will just be with you. Where y'all go to an island and y'all can just duke it out. I mean, you could just push any button you want to. You can have as many boom booms and weapons as you want to. You can be as destructive as you want to at this isolated place where y'all had this war. Why isn't it a place like that for you to do that? Or better yet, why don't y'all just set up a boxing match or whatever? And you two into it. Why'd you go box it out? Go train and see if y'all really had to go in there and really box it out, or you really had a place that you wouldn't do it because you're cowards. If you really had a place designated for you to go duke it out by yourself without putting other people in it, you probably wouldn't do it because you couldn't use other people for shields. I don't know why you don't have that. I want that for you. I vote the next war you have it on the place that y'all done spend some money on where y'all can have as many wars y'all want to. That place, that island is only for y'all wars. That's what needs to happen there. I don't see why you're so smart. Why haven't you did that? You want to risk hurting other people. That makes you I didn't unalive all. This is how you think about it. I'm winning because I done unalived all these people. This how boy, this how you think. You want us to be casualties and be hurt for your own ego. It's just I would rather you go out there and box each other in the head. That seems more satisfying. Wear each other out. I remember my mom used to do that. Me and my cousins and stuff, we would go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And they would get tired and say, "We tired of y'all. Stop fighting. Quit it. Stop." Okay, I guess what? Y'all not gonna stop it. Go ahead and fight it out. Get it out your system. They let us sit there and fight till we tired. After that, don't nobody want to fight no more. Fight be over. It don't even matter who won. Hell, we tired as hell now. Ain't no more arguing going on because you've had a chance to get it out of our system. That's what needs to happen with you guys. But you don't want that, okay? I can have one less child for my personal fulfillment and use the energy for mentoring other women and girls. Also, using my monetary resources for enriching women's minds. That would be the best thing for you, okay? Some of these women, they got us caught up in having children by them for being their chattel. That's basically where we are now. When you think you can use women as objects for your sexual gratification and to use our children in your in your wars and all this crazy stuff, we're no longer people now. You don't even look at us as people now. I think a good example of that is the Epstein files. If you're really mad about it, after seeing that, that really inspires and motivates me uh, to really create places for women by women. Just corrupt, just utterly corrupt. Okay. Second, advocate for a redirection of resources away from military expansion towards social welfare and education and community stability. He will not do that, which is something that would really fix our homeland. They're not doing that. They're doing everything except fixing what's wrong. And then having her take your tax dollars and do it and give it to other people. And then it ain't not only tax your money, they're gonna tax your child too. When they go in the store, they're gonna pay taxes too. Now they're gonna tax you in the store, they're gonna take taxes out your check. Are they gonna tax you double tax? And then we're not even sure if the IRS is a legal organization. We don't even know if they even had a right to be taking them taxes like that. Okay. Third, they encourage new forms of conflict resolution rooted in dialogue, diplomacy, and restorative justice rather than retaliation. And that's what needed to have happened when that happened to Iran. And he said, "Hey, this is what we want." He said, "Hey, we will do this because he want restorative justice, which is understandable. Yes, you need to compensate them. You ask me, you should compensate women for the distress you have put us in, trying to raise children off of nothing, having to put up with you, got to be scared with our life because we don't know what's gonna happen to us 1 minute after the next with some of these crazy men." I was just seeing a video the other day. It was so disturbing. This woman, she was shopping, and here she has this man following her, following her, and just mesmerized by her buttocks, and telling her, you shouldn't have a buttocks that big. That's why I'm following you. I'm gonna keep on following you. You shouldn't be built like that. You should. I mean, he followed her from store to store to store, and some men was watching him do this. That's gonna be your future. You're gonna see a lot of that happening. Okay. Finally, matriarchal communities prioritize the well-being of the most affected by the systemic inequality, ensuring that marginalized voices remain central in decision-making process. The work of the Cosmic Mother Ministry is part of that broader transformation, which we talk about that in our community. We talk about the discussions. We talk about the core of who women really is so they can understand their power in this world. By bringing women together through spiritual teachings, community gatherings, and shared healing practices, the ministry seeks to cultivate a network of women who are prepared to imagine and build a more balanced world. It is not merely a spiritual organization, but a seed for future communities rooted in the wisdom of feminine principle. Our community represents generative force of the universe, the creative energy that births stars, nurtures ecosystems, and sustains life on earth. When women gather under this spiritual archetype, they reconnect with a lineage far older than modern political systems. The connection reminds us that another world is possible. It's very possible. I know it seems like it's impossible because you've been going on with this system for so long. And the thing is, there's a lack of independent thought that's going on there. And then, too, people think that uh, they don't want to be orchestrated for not going along with the system because authenticity is a threat in our society. Doing something revolutionary is a threat in our society. That's why you got everybody, these women getting these fake butts alike. They all wearing this makeup, everything just looks alike. Same hairstyle, same just conformity, conformity, conform. There is a lack of authenticity. So when somebody is different and they are authentic, they get orchestrated, they get made fun of because the social structure that's set up is set up to abuse people who's authentic or who's revolutionary. They get little support. Who gets the support? The men. Now, if it was a man sitting up here saying this, it'll be 100 women. It'll be 1,000 women up here in my thing. I ain't lying. Ooh, King, ooh, King, I love you so much. Ooh, King, yes, King. Yeah, it'll be all that. Then y'all be fighting over him too. You ain't gonna see them do women like that. You ain't gonna see men do it. The only time they're doing women like that is when women are stroking their ego. You don't see them in here doing this. Okay? It's something for you to think about. Sit with it. I know I said a lot. Okay? And I wish I could say it more eloquently and elegant to you, but right now we don't have time for that. We really don't. Okay? We really don't. I wish I could bring the message to you a lot more pleasanter and more pleasant and just stroke your ego and just mesmerize you and tell you the sweet little nothings and I can't do it because the time that we have is not much. We don't have much time. Don't have much time. Okay? Don't have it. I've seen it. I've seen the destruction that is coming upon that nation. Okay, it is coming, and the only way to slow down the impact is that women, get together, get together, and get busy building and organizing. Okay, that will really the impact won't be as great if women have already organized. It's going to be great. It's going to be very great if women fail to organize and they keep on with the shenanigans back and forth. And it's gonna be a time you're gonna be sitting there and be like, damn, I spent all my time talking about this and this is what I needed to been doing. Okay. Yeah, it's gonna happen. Okay. And you can say I'm just talking, I'm just fear mongering. You told me that a year ago. A lot of y'all, you thought that a year ago. I even had men say I was hating them and all that. And here we are now. Here we are now. The very thing I said is happening. The very thing we discussed, everything we talked about is happening. Okay. This reconnection reminds us that another world is possible. In the time when global conflicts reveal dangers of unchecked patriarchal power, women are being called to remember their ancient role of guardians of life, culture, and community. Building matriarchal networks today may begin with small circles of trust, but those circles have the potential to grow into powerful movements capable of reshaping society. In the future will not emerge from violence or domination. It will emerge from communities that choose cooperation over competition, healing over conquest, and life over destruction. The future begins when women gather, organize, and reclaim their wisdom of the cosmic mother, the great mother. Okay. So I've came here and I've shared that with you today. I've laid a lot on you. Uh, thank you so much, Venora 623 for engaging. I appreciate the women who showed up here today that did engage, that were able to offer their insights into the conversation. And if you're interested in this conversation, if you're interested in building, we definitely have a community for women by women, and I'm very interested. We are very interested in trying to create a better world, correcting what our other mothers did not have an opportunity to do with the little time that we do have. Okay. All right, you guys, thank you for being here. And I hope you found this live stream insightful.